Few topics have been as widely debated, the subject of so many tabloid stories and television documentaries. Few have been laced with more charges of cover-ups, government obstruction, and fanciful imaginative stories as has been the topic of UFO sightings. So many people today have video cameras and camera phones, and because of that, the number of documented sightings of strange things in the sky is growing exponentially. What I hope to do is to take you through the history of UFO reports. We'll examine the way primitive man was so in tune with the heavens that he knew when anything was out of the ordinary. We'll look at the way the skies ruled our lives, and then we'll move forward into modern times. We'll ask ourselves important questions about how we today react to things in the sky, and whether or not our reactions are part of a force within us that goes back to the time of the cavemen. We'll look at the best-known and some of the lesser-known sightings of craft or unexplained things in the sky. We'll also look at the way governments around the world have treated the issue and whether or not they have covered up what they might know about these sightings and reports. Although we tend to think of 1947 as the year that Americans in the world first started noticing and reporting strange phenomenon in the sky, the sightings of unidentified objects go back thousands of years. Many of the first credible records of UFOs and or extraterrestrial sightings actually go back nearly 8,000 years. Cave paintings drawn by the Aboriginal peoples of Australia dating from that time show images of strange-looking beings with what look like modern-day antennae. Some have an eerie X-ray-like aura about them. Moving forward in time, 2,000 years before Christ, the Sumerian culture had an oral tradition of life in outer space. Sumerians apparently had a great knowledge of the heavens and the alignment of the stars. At that same period in world history, the fledgling Hindu culture spoke of what we might call aerial dogfights between powerful sky gods riding special flying machines. It is interesting to note that this period, around 2000 BC, was rife with cultures that believed that there was something out there. Here in the Americas, at that same time, the Mayan people, who built temples on the highest mountains to be closer to their star gods, developed a culture based on a complex knowledge of the stars. Their great temples are so precisely aligned that at one, on the morning of the solstice, the sun rises up the steps on one corner of a huge pyramid, like a long serpent god creeping up to reach the summit, to be closer to the sky, possibly to return. Their incredibly accurate calendar has been in the news lately. It is a complete wheel within a wheel within a wheel, based on a formula that is difficult to compute even with today's electronic equipment. It is being widely debated because its last section ends on the 21st of December, 2012. Some think that that date, determined by an otherwise primitive culture, will be the end of time. All this brings about a large question. How did these peoples, in the days before truly organized writing and communications, computers and the Internet, how did these peoples develop such mathematically correct formulae that even today stump scientists? How did these people, considered by today's world to be heathens with no real skills other than day-to-day survival, move gigantic stones to high mountain peaks? How did they understand time and the sequence of the stars? The controversial author Eric von Däniken, in his book Chariots of the Gods, postulates that early man had help from the heavens. He claims that aliens came to Earth to assist these primitive cultures, leaving them with a greater understanding of the wider universe, and that over millennia, as man got smarter and more intelligent, he somehow left all this alien-given knowledge behind him, eventually seeing his far-gone ancestors as primitive, illiterate cultures. Now, if we buy into the theory that the incredible and marvelous achievement of the ancient cultures were the result of extraterrestrial tutoring, then another question comes to the fore. Have the extraterrestrials come back? Are they revisiting us to see how man has coped with the knowledge they gave him thousands of years ago? Are the strange lights in today's skies alien astronauts who are checking on we earthlings, wondering why we no longer remember that incredible information imparted to man millennia ago? Questions like this plague modern man. They are the stuff of which nightmares are made, and millions of grocery store checkout tabloids are sold. It is a given that the issue of whether or not ancient man had outside alien help will continue to be the subject of debate. But it is certain that people thousands of years ago had something we don't have today. And what they did have was the result, ironically, of something they didn't have. They didn't have street lights and smog and car lights and airplanes with lights and satellites circling the globe. They did not have light pollution. If modern man were able to see the night sky the way the ancients viewed it, he would likely faint, done in by what was a brilliant display of millions of points of light. We can only understand that kind of intimacy that ancient man had with the heavens if we go to a planetarium where the night sky is projected as intense pinpoints of light on a jet black background. It is a safe bet that if you could ask 10,000 people to point out the stars and constellations in the night sky, very few could. Maybe a handful, maybe fewer, would be able to point out much more than the moon and maybe the planet Venus. In many ways, we have no connection with the stars because we cannot really see the sky at night. And after all, why would today's young people look up? Today people have the internet and their texting phones and all of their instantly gratifying images. They do not need the magnificence of the heavens. But ancient man's life was immersed in star watching. And the reason he so often looked up was more than the fact that he could see the night sky more precisely. The night sky was his road map. It was the chart by which he saw his days progress and his years advance. It was his farmer's almanac, his celestial calendar, his blueprint for the future. Ancient man knew his place in life and his place in time by looking at the night sky. What he saw was a tapestry of light, swirls and patterns and millions of dots in the sky above him. The night sky was his roof and his compass. From his earliest days, man knew the sky. He knew what to expect. As a race, we humans have, for all of our existence, looked to the heavens. Now, I don't mean to make a super big deal about this, but we must put all of this in perspective. Early man was as in tune with the stars as we are today with the internet or our cell phones or the newest car or fashion trend. If we're going to investigate the role of UFOs in our lives, we have to get into the psyche of human beings. We have to realize that as a race, we have been conditioned from the beginning, from day one, to look up. Many paintings and other presentations of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden depict the first humans in awe of their Creator God, a being in the heavens, above them, superior to them. And so from the earliest days of humanity, the ingrained personal command has been to look up. The earliest science was not fire-making. It was what became to be known as astrology. Interestingly enough, most organized religions didn't worry about the role of astrology in people's lives. The New Testament, after all, has no problem explaining that the Magi, the wealthy magicians, the stargazers of their time, followed a star to Bethlehem.